What's going on today, everybody? How's it going? So today I'm working on these cylinders. I'm gonna try to get this short block one step closer. I gotta sandpaper the cylinders a little bit and get some stuff finalized so we can get to it. I'm also gonna be working on the rings. I'm gonna probably practice on an old one and then move to the new ones, just so I can get a feel for it. So let's get to it. Peace. So I started off by taking 600 grit sandpaper to the cylinder walls and just gave it a light buff to give it some scratches. You want those scratches to make it easier for your rings to mate. After you get all those scratches in there, you've got metal shavings that you have to get out. ATF is your best choice, and you just take a little bit on a rag and wash it around the cylinder bore. You want to do this until the ATF comes out clean. This is what each one of the rags looks like. You got your first up top, and then it gets less and less. So by the fourth time, I got it actually clean. You can see the cylinder walls have a little bit of scuffing on them, but not a whole lot. You don't want to take a lot of material off. Here's the an old ring from this piston. I've been working on it. I finally got it to 23 thousandths is what I'm gonna go run with these. So here's the new one in here, and I'm setting it up to where when I put my feeler gauge in there, if it falls, that it's not that one. So that was 15 thousandths. Here's 16 thousandths, and it's kind of a little rough to get in there. It's hard to do with one hand too. So there's 16 thousandths sitting in the new one, and my end goal is going to be 23 thousandths. So I've got a little bit of work to do. I'm having it to where 15 will slide down, 16 is staying up. So chances are it's most likely below 16, but since it's in there a little bit tight, it's probably 15 and a half. But that's how we're gonna do it, so we'll get to it. So here's a quick little trick. If you don't have a piston to use or a tool, use a little bolt that you can always have the same thing. So the head of the bolt will sit up on your top of your deck, and then you push the bolt down, and if you can push it all the way around, and that should leave it pretty well centered. So I just did a little test run to see how this reacts to each step, just so I know. I took very, very minimal amount off and filed it to see how hard to press with the file and how hard to press with the Dremel to see where I need to be for this, because I want to get the process down before I get to the end, because once I get to the end, I want it to be perfect. I want it to have as good as I can get. Now, one other thing, what I'll do is I'll take this out and I'll pinch it and hold it up to the light to check this end gap to see if it's got any gapping between it. It's probably going to be really hard to see with the light, but you can see that there's a little bit of a gap at the outside edge. So I gotta address that. I'll move this forward to put more pressure on the bottom side. Once you turn the Dremel off, or if you're using a Dremel or any other tool, give it a second, because I learned the hard way that end gets really hot if you're sitting there and working on it for a little bit. So I've got this first ring set to 21 thousandths, so I've only got 2 more thousandths to go, so I'm going to take it real slow and make sure that I do it right. When you get done grinding on these rings, it's best to take the edge off, there'll be a slight edge with a small file. This one's got super thin ribs in it, but the best way to tell is take your fingernail and drag it across. There'll be an edge on this side, and on the bottom side, because you're supposed to grind from the outside coming into the ring. So you start, or you want it to rotate through this way, and that's because there's some rings that have a moly outside edge, and if you push it out, it's really hard, but it's a coating, so it will fall off of it or fracture off, and you'll have chunks, which this is the side that runs along the inside of your cylinder, and that's going to be a problem if you've got chunks missing. So the best way to do it, check with your fingernails. Now this side I'm not grinding on, this is the side I'm grinding on, and you can tell real easy by having it up and take your finger down. There's no resistance. If I put this side that I've been grinding on, I catch on it. So just take the file real quick, and the smallest amount, you don't want to put a chamfer on it, you just want to take that burr off of it. So what putting an extra chamfer in does is acts like a gap, because now you've chamfered it. So say I've put this chamfer in here on this backside, well, now that gap between the piston is now a larger gap than what you're wanting to have, and that's another reason why you want to do it straight, where these two will match together and mate together flat, instead of having one that's crooked, like having the gap look like that. If I can get it, there you go. So having the gap look like that will cause a bigger gap overall, because now there's oil and water passing through that larger gap. So this is what the end gap looks like. And you can tell if you have a slight chamfer in the gap, because one side will go in real easily and then it gets really hard. So I've got a slight chamfer in this, and I've only got 1/1000th to go. So I got to really work on getting this outside edge to the right thickness and this inside edge to not even touch, because the inside's just under 23 but the 22 will fit most of the way in, and then it hits a little snag. So I got to finish the rest of that to make sure that it's nice and square. It's not 100% necessary, but a good thing to do is have 2 sets of feeler gauges. If you can see this stuff, that's actually causing a misread on this number 16, so I have to do it down here. And this one doesn't have quite as many on the bigger ones. It has it on the smaller ones. This one has it on the bigger ones. So mix and match the two to get the closest you can get. Well, finally got all these rings set. I managed to mess one of them up. When I first started with the second ring, I figured out that it's best to stay with one size ring or one ring, so do all the top rings and then do the bottom rings, because you get a sense of how hard they are and what they'll take and how they'll react to the heat and whatnot. I switched over to the second ring and just went gung-ho and got a little antsy. So it's at like 30 thousandths, which is pretty big, so I'm going to see if I can buy another one and get another one sent here, because that's a little bit more than I wanted to. The factory Manly's saying that they wanted it at 23 hundredths, 23 thousandths, hundredths, whatever it is, 0.023, and this one's at 0.03. So it's close. But I'd rather have it perfect. I contacted Manly to see if they'd get one here, and they haven't gotten back to me. So we'll figure that out. But all the other ones are set. I've got all the tops and bottoms set for 1 through 3, and then the top set for 4. Waiting on the last second ring. So yeah, that's gonna do it for me today. It's getting late, and it's time for me to go to bed. Take it easy, guys. Like, comment, subscribe. Let me know what you think. I'm ready to get done with this. Are you? I am. I'm really ready to get done with this. I'm over it. I want to drive it. All right. Peace.